Hello.
Sacha, hello. I'm so happy that you join us. Hello. I am very, very happy that you accept the invitation. We have a just on record because I didn't want to open it up for the wide audience. I really have so many questions to you myself. Then we're going to make a record and then share. Would you mind?
No, whatever works for you, Irina, is fine with me.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'll give a 2 minutes introduction speech just to let you know that I don't want us to talk about virus, about germs, about vaccines. I think it's all enough. And I think in my mind, when I saw you speaking, it was too much resonating with me. And sorry, my English is really a little bit rusty because I have been in Canada for 25 years and I have been working as my last role was a managing director in strategic asset allocation. I was managing huge portfolio of pension plans globally.
Wow, and interesting. Yeah. Interesting market, especially this year. Wow.
Yes, and this is why I would like you to know a bit from what angle I would like us to approach our conversation, because I have been educated in Soviet Union, in Siberia, in the very academical family with the large circle of friends and with very stable, happy childhood. And the whole my career was laid out until this destroyer happened. Yeah. And then I took my kids, 2 suits, 2 boxes of scientific books, husband, and we moved to Toronto. Since then, I had a wonderful career. I have been working in 7 industries: insurance, banking, credit card, marketing, investment, consulting, loyalty. And I have been doing this all by hands. So everything what people now just started to discover, artificial intelligence, my PhD from Soviet Union. I know all this big data, data mining, machine learning, deep learning, it's all buzzwords, but I have been doing this by hands. So when I saw how the invisible market hand is really working, how short horizons are, how speculative and manipulative all this industry about the invisible hand, and how it's impacting countries, lives, how it's changing people' future, kids' education. This is what something which was really like 5 years ago, it's opened up for me. And what I'm doing, I position myself as traditional grandma from the digital reality. I have 5 granddaughters. Beautiful, blondie, with big eyes. One son-in-law is French, one son-in-law is Canadian, one son-in-law is Macedonian. So truly and honestly, from the bottom of my heart, when I heard you speaking about Russia is a soul for the civilization, America is a pulse for the civilization, and Africa is the fire and the blood. This is something which resonated so well to idea which I would like us today, kind of, if you can highlight this, because to me, I have been working as a manager, as a VP. I managed the huge team, virtual team, but culturally very, very different, because Toronto is the Babylon. I have been managing people from China, India, Vietnam, everywhere, and in analytical team. And what I have learned, really, the culture code are much more important, valuable, and essential for our people, for any people, rather than any digitalization. So this is where I think we maybe not spending enough time on this cultural crossroads. So when I came to Canada, I was 33. After university, after PhD, so my mind, my values, my sense of life in the beginning was very, very happy. I never wanted to leave my country. Some people came to the West because they weren't happy with the Soviet Union. I am not one of them. I really saw a lot of values. And this is why now when they start to talk about socialism, about the propaganda, this is where I really would like us to kind of separate, to differentiate something which is economically driven and some ideology which here is hidden from people. And they are based on the labeling. And marketing is a labeling. So when people talking about propaganda in Soviet Union, I came here in Canada. And to me, advertising industry, it's a propaganda of consumption, which is even much more stronger than it's used to be. So now what I see happening behind the scene, people are using some terms, like, for example, inclusive capitalism. And this great reset, which people are so much aware, and Schwab in Davos, right now, when we're talking to you, he's talking about the big trampoline for the humanity to get to the next stage. But all the hidden agenda, all the shadow programs, which being hidden from people, from normal people, I think this is why I would like you to give us your view, your vision. What do you think can be done to make it more open for the normal people, culture of the different countries, you know, languages, nations, that they can live peacefully and happily together?
Well, I can't speak on behalf of countries as a whole, but what I can do is stand under the eternal gaze of the Son and the Almighty and declare with absolute clarity that Carl Schwab is a sociopath, and none of us should pay any attention to these creatures. They are scarcely ensouled creatures lurching around the international stage at Davos. We saw this kind of Bilderberger-light creatures emerging in recent years as the kind of proxies of the old guard, who themselves are living behind gated mansions in Tel Aviv, in Manhattan, in London, in Rome, and elsewhere. Look, Davos is as far as I'm concerned, a hollow vessel. It doesn't represent either the divine or the mortal. It is a playground of the proxies of the invisible masters who themselves are demonically possessed, proxies of the lower astral realms and the demiurges and the egregores that proliferate in the lower astral realms. This world is now becoming the birthright of the Adamite, of the true human, of the Christed ones. That is you and I, those amongst us who are asking these questions, those amongst us who are doing our best to answer these questions, those of us who are moving forward in a state of equanimity, in a state of grace, who are asking noble questions and trying to affirm and to expand and to create in this world. So we do not broker, we're not traders or brokers, we're not trying to capitalize on anything, we're not trying to collectivize anything. We are the ones who are the makers and the doers and the beers. So we should just focus on continuing on that noble path because it feels righteous, because it is righteous. What we have to do is be courageous enough to be able to look at the dark hearts in our world, the Schwabs of this world, these kind of eugenicists in this world, and sociopaths like the Faucis and the Gateses and the 13 bloodlines who are governing our global financial sector, the Venetian nobility, all of their grandchildren who are running around trying to hold on to their trust funds and continue with their dark little blood cultism and their ritual sacrifices where they can get away with this kind of nonsense. This has been going on for thousands of years. I mean, the Canaanites gave issue to the Romans and the Judeans, and they gave issue to the Khazarians and to the Illuminati, and Switzerland was born, and then out of Switzerland, United States, 1776 issued as all part of a weaponization, a collectivization of good sons and daughters of God. So human beings have been exploited now for thousands of years. Certainly the last 2,000 years has been a very straight line of supremacy and control, manipulation, and dominion. of a very small echelon, harvesting humanity and parasiting off the life force of billions of souls. Now we come into a different quadrant of the multiverse, of the omniverse. And as we move through the galactic plane and the ecliptic of the galactic plane in recent years, that we start to impact again a new form of light coding, a new ultraviolet photon band that is moving through every atom, every molecule, every cell of every living system in this blessed planet. And there is an awakening coming up from within the spin of atoms, within the waters of the cells that make up our beautiful oceans and our the microbiome of the soil and of the air and of the human bodies. So the antenna of our fractal DNA, our blood, the antenna of the human being is now awakening to become what it was always meant to be. It was always meant to be this galactic confluence of hyperdimensionality, of limitless potential, limitless genius, limitless divinity. That's what we are becoming now, palpably. So I think, to answer your question, Irina, we should not place our attention too much on the bad images and the bad icons and the bad archetypes that were programmed for us to try and keep us engaged in that dialectic, in that conversation. I say withdraw altogether, and in that stead, put the attention into the revelation within our own supernature. That is what is going to throw this devil off our back. All of the ills in the world are connected to supremacy and dominion, manipulation, control, one entity trying to parasite off another entity. That is the basis, the root algorithm of usury in banking, interest bearing. Wherever you have usury or interest bearing, you have the parasite. The parasite is the extension of the satanic and the Luciferian, because it needs to devour something and destroy something in order to empower itself, in order to validate itself. So the entirety of our planetary apparatus and infrastructure is predicated on this satanic parasitic principle of the harvest of humanity and the destructivity of the natural world. We can see that now crystal clear. So we have to withdraw our attention altogether from that. That is what matters, not how communities of people or nations of people or cultures learn to get along. We need to move beyond altogether, even the idea of the borders. And I'm not talking about this George Soros open borders, open society. That's a Fabianist agenda that was designed to make us feel as though collectivism was a universal principle. No, that was evil and insidious. They had no intention. They wanted to bleach out all of our character. They wanted to impose this Fabianist agenda, transgenderize our children, completely deconstruct our spiritual dimension and our morality, and turn us into an artificial intelligence, genetically modified creature, which is what Gates and Fauci and Soros and the rest of them have in mind. That is the bad dream that they are now completely obsessed with, this idea of getting vaccinations into our arms. Of course, there's no vaccination in these injections at all. This is a medical device. This is genetic modification. We know exactly what is being disguised inside this vaccination masquerade. It's all satanic, all evil, all witchery, witchcraft, and that is what we need to awaken from. The rest of the answer to the question that you asked will self-reveal and self-fulfill once we have claimed our own cognizance of the Atman, of the actualized human, and to say, I no longer stand under government. I no longer stand under the tax office. I no longer stand under a military purview. I no longer stand under the Catholic Church. I stand under the eternal gaze of the living God. I am a son of God. I am a daughter of God, and I will move forward unmolested in this world, causing no harm, loss, or injury to another living soul. That's it. That's the credo.
And
That's
I totally agree with you, Sasha. Only my concern how to help people to separate this hidden agenda of Soros and everyone who is claiming to be open society, who is claiming about equality of everyone. And this is what they are now drawing people attention. And so many people have a trust. So my question is, how do we wake up our sleepy bodies if we are using the same technology? Because this is when we talk to you, we talk about inspirational and spiritual, and the same tool used to capture attention and create addiction for children. That the children are going to be part of this, I call it homo digital people, and some of their agents, like Harari, they call it homo deus. This is why I started from labeling, from marketing, because people are so much attracted their attention to this presentation rather than essence. And Western culture, in my mind, whole educational system, it's about how to sell it. You need to present.
Yes.
They don't feel the soul of the thing.
Yes. Bravo, bravo. There is no substance. It's all style. It's all form. It's all shape. It's all propaganda. It's all advertising and marketing, which is deception. It's all based on deception, correct? And no quintessence, no essence, no fire, no animus. Yes, that is, you've described very well the gestalt of the, let's say, the Anglo-American hegemony over or the Euro-American hegemony, because it's the imperial crowns of Europe and the Vatican complex, which was the extension of the Caesars of Rome and the Phoenicians of old, and these parasitic Khazarians as well. If you understand the backdrop to global finances and economics, there's Khazarian mafia, crypto Jews hiding within the blessed Jewish faith and weaponizing Judaism and then moving against all peoples. These are the Sabbateans, the Khazarian Sabbateans. These are satanic, luciferic creatures in their quintessence. That's what they are, an ultimate parasitic force. Of course, their great-great-grandchildren have become hybridized now, and many of them are very good humans, and they are good crypto Jews, you know, doing Rosh Hashanah and all of that nonsense. So nothing against the Jewish faith here, but everything against the crypto Jews who are masquerading behind the Jewish faith and have done for hundreds of years. That is a luciferic tradition that needs to be exposed fully. Why do you think they create the Anti-Defamation League, the ADL, and then they weaponize even the capacity for people to speak to the truth of the Second World War and what happened? So we're not even allowed to investigate or much less speak to the real history of evil. How the hell are we supposed to get hold of a cancer if we can't find it, if we can't see it? Even looking for the cancer has been outlawed, and treating the cancer or curing it has been outlawed. So this is the kind of dream spell that we've been orchestrated into by that same Fabianist agenda. Look, none of it matters. Now, the only thing that matters is where we place our attention. So Irina, here we are, the start of the 21st century, okay, 2021. And we have got two governments in America. We've got a crypto government, again, just like in what we've just discussed. We have a crypto government with this Joseph Biden administration. This is a hollow ship. This has nothing in the engine room. There is no fuel in the tank. There is no cannonballs in the cannon. There is nothing. It is only the appearance of a government. There is no military. There is no purview. He has no power whatsoever. Only an executive pen. He doesn't even know what he's signing, okay, by his own admission. There is no military people saluting him. There was no 21-gun salute at the inauguration, the enthronement of the evil little wizard, because that's what we're dealing with here, an evil little wizard who for half a century has been in power, in the highest offices of power. And for half a century, he has presided over the wickedness and the evils of the world and this mass sacrifice of innocence. I will not be polite about this goddamn creature. I will call it what it is. And all of this little coterie of satanic luciferic icons around him, and the Democratic Party, and the Republican Party, and the Congress of the United States, and the US Supreme Court, they are all part of the same construct, but they are the perfect geometry of evil empire in the end of days. And that is the point. It's over. The real government is already in the pulse of middle America, the 80% of America who actually voted for Donald Trump a few weeks ago. Okay, despite the malfeasance and the deception and the fraud, which we all know is forensically evidenced, despite all of that, the weaponization of Silicon Valley and big tech and the mainstream media, the grotesque lies coming out of the mouths of these pundits, none of that actually matters, Irina, because if you're engaged in the real conversation with what's happening, this awakening that we referred to, that is what is happening. That is the true government. So I say we have a crypto government in District of Columbia, which is now under military occupation because they are a foreign invader, and Donald Trump and all of the good military guys know full well what they're dealing with. We're about to witness a deconstruction of the fiction of the US corporation government. And Vladimir Putin has done the same thing, I believe he is beginning in Russia. And I believe that since he cut off Boris Berezovsky's hand many years ago and cut the oligarchs out and reclaimed Russia and jumped on the back of that crazy wild horse and rode it like a hard man, which is exactly what he was correct in doing. Only a godly man could have done that and survived. But of course, the liberal intellectual class in Russia, they failed to see that because they were the enablers of the goddamn Gorbachev dynasty bullshit. So all of this up and down, helter-skelter agenda, Jesuitical, this, that, and it doesn't matter. The real government is returning in the pulse of middle America and of humanity. So the whole world is going to follow. What's happening in America is always the geometry that will happen in the rest.
It's a perfect introduction to the question which I would like to ask you, because I ask my people who listen to me to provide a question. And I think all of us were very closely watching election in US. I have been doing my news on the daily basis. I really got deep into this, trying to translate to Russia. And I know many intellectual people who are not liberal people. We call them conservative. So generally speaking, just to label, to make it simple, conservative and progressive. Progressive, the ones who are following this technology, techno-globalization, which is really in my mind what you call crypto, because this is when people are just getting all like matrix, the elements. They are losing self-identity. And I feel it, I see it, I really think that this is what the goal is. On the other hand, we have people who have a conservative agenda, who follow the family, the roles, the something which allow us to save their life for this planet. So what happened really with Mr. Donald Trump in the White House, Russian people resonated very well with him because he is the brave, he is the one who takes responsibility. But Canadian people, this is my question to you. They reacted so badly to the whole movement of anti-crypto government because of the leadership of the Trump. His personality was very badly presented, not by only me, by the way how he speaks, because he's not a politician. And to me, it's a good sign that he can speak up his agenda, but it's back to the presentation part, because he wasn't presented. My daughter was telling me, he's a Nazi. He is the one who is so rude. He is sexist. And this is a challenge now for people who wanted to fight the crypto government, but they don't want to see the leadership of this crude man. How do you approach?
Irina, anyone can simply read the Jesuit oath to learn how it is that this kind of agenda is manufactured consent. So it is how the generation of your daughter that you're describing, her generation was targeted in order to make them open up the heart in a certain way and feel a concern about human rights and feel concern about Black Lives Matter and concern about, animals' welfare and concern about the environment. But half of this was true. The human rights bit was correct, but the Black Lives Matter was a complete satanic software program, and the environment was part of a software program. So it was mixed up in the soup, and the generation of your daughter didn't know what is what in the soup. This is the problem. So they only have these, again, iconoclasticism, iconography going on in the brain. They're holding on to certain ideals, but they don't know, they have no point of reference. So that generation are not aware of the fact that Greta Thunberg, or whatever that moronic child's name is, I have no time for this nonsense. And I couldn't give a damn about the liberal intellectual idiots who try and support that narrative. They are lost to themselves, and they are the great existential threat to our world. People who believe in that nonsense, the climate change bullshit and the peak oil bullshit. All of that stuff is an agenda to create scarcity economics so that there is more tyrannical totalitarian control. Stalin, Joseph Stalin, evil son of a bitch, is the same creature as George Soros. George Soros masquerading as progressivist, and Joseph Stalin at least being honest about being a totalitarian monster. So Stalin is the better of those two evils. Because Stalin, you could see what he was. He didn't pretend to be progressive. He was exactly what he was. An evil son of a bitch doing the bidding of the Zionist Sabbatean taskmasters who overthrew the Romanov dynasty, that imperial line of nobility. Now, I'm not suggesting we go back to that time, but I am saying that the overthrow of the Bolshevik revolution was a Wall Street operation. Pure and simple, financed through Wall Street, and we saw what happened. So this set Russia back to the Stone Age in some ways. Psychoculturally, it threw Russia under a bus. It was intended to do so. And that is because if you understand the true meta psychometry of the world at the energetic level, Russia is such an important element, because it does represent the soul, which is the entire direction of the planet. And they had to get to Russia first. Actually, they got to Africa first, Cecil John Rhodes, all of that in the 1800s, and they managed to own and contain and control the fire element and to turn the tap off. Then they went for Russia to turn the crown off, and then they went for America and China and managed to turn China into what it is today. This antithetical blah blah communist story. But then they've played this proxy game all around the world. They've communized a few countries here, and they've democratized a few countries over there, and then they use that as a dialectic to constantly foment war in Southeast Asia, Central South America, Africa, Eurasia, and so on. That, again, is part of the Jesuitical tradition. I say again, Irina, people need to simply go and read the Jesuit oath. In Russian, in Chinese, in Hebrew, in English, I don't care. It's all there. That explains the mathematics of how these devils planned to constantly keep humanity in the state of dystopia, never arriving at an equilibrium where war and disease and poverty could leave this dreamscape. And that is ultimately what we are now emerging from as a species. We are so tired in our genetics. We are so tired of war, Irina. We reject it. Your daughter's generation want nothing to do with it. But they are still, unfortunately, in a combination of street drugs and pharmaceutical poisoning and poisoning in the food and the water. There is a cocktail of drugs and synthetic molecules that is also attacking the genetic expression of her generation. Anyone in their teens and 20s is being very, very weaponized by the synthetic molecules that have been pumped into the air, the water, the soil, and the food. That's a fact. That's a fact. Our generation, which is older, and I grew up in Africa, in a sense, we just about got away with it. But the younger generations right now are very, very, militant in their psycho-emotional responses to things. Very militant, not in the same, but they're militant in supporting the progressivist status quo. This is the insane proposition, is that they are militantly supporting the very thing that they actually hate, which is fascism. But they haven't worked that mathematics out yet. That's the clever bit. And that, again, is what the Jesuits are all about.
Sasha, if I can tell you a bit about what you're saying about Marxism, it's more Trotskyism. It's a Trotsky who was part of the Wall Street. And he was one in Russia who turned around everything against Russian people. But I would like to defend a bit Stalin, because he was the one who sent Trotsky away, and Trotsky was theoretically killed just because he was a threat for the Russian culture. Stalin turned around the whole idea of the Soviet industrial revolution, and people became so much empowered there. But the West didn't want to know this. This is why the Stalin created as a satanic myth. But in reality, we won Second War. We fight fascism. So many Soviet people, soldiers, will free up the Europe because people believe that this dream of being empowered by the government with the free education, with free medical system, with free culture. What I saw on the West when I came here, to me, was like disaster. To me, the whole society was just about making money, passive income. To me, we were about the laboring. People need to labor to be able to make income. We could not tolerate anyone who would just be infant on, money need to make money. So all the Soviet in the good ideological part was about forming new type of people who can sacrifice their life.
I completely understand that. Thank you for the clarification. I do understand that. What I was speaking to about Stalin was the fact that he has been popularized as this totalitarian icon. And that to me is a more honest one than George Soros. That's the point I was trying to make.
That's right.
Of course, I understand how Stalin was compromised. I also understand to some extent how Adolf Hitler was compromised to some extent. But and again, this is how the Sabbatean agenda operates.
That's right.
It is constantly manufacturing these icons and controlling these icons and then collapsing them when it suits their agenda of the dialectic. So that is why I personally love Vladimir Putin so much. Personally, I absolutely revere the man for this reason, because I believe that history will reflect one day that Vladimir Putin was the living man who anchored the true Christed principle before anyone else in the 20th century to redeem humanity from the Luciferic age. I genuinely believe that. And I feel that Donald Trump and others have come in the wake of that inertia that was created already. Because if Putin had not managed to contain Russia and remove it from the indentureship to the IMF recently was a perfect example. That is genius leadership. That is why we have leaders for that kind of action, and nobody recognizes this in the man. What an incredible accomplishment to get a country like Russia out of indentureship to satanic transnational bankers. We should all be on our knees in gratitude to what that man did and how he managed to do it. But no, of course not. But that's because the satanic bankster class own and control the eyes and the ears of the world, but not for much longer.
But this is true. And it's also compared to other political leaders of Europe. This is why what I seen here, the all political leaders became more showmen. They have no agenda. They have no power, intellectual power. They all marionettes. Whatever happening in Europe, it's really all of them are part of this Soros army, and you see that they are not protecting their own people. But I mean, this is a part of me speaking about culture, because France, for example, or England, this is a sum of so culturally valued people who have, what I think we need to help people to understand what the ideal, where do they need to drive their kids? Because right now, if you just let them go, and they used to believe, it's like in Soviet Union, by the way, when the destroyka happened, and it's 90, when we escaped because we were well educated, all countries were happy to take us because of our education, because of the level of professionalism, and they didn't take a course here. Everything, 7 industries just based on Soviet education. And every time I would tell, I'll teach you. But the point being that people are so like to rely on the government, rely on this welfare, rely on somebody governing this. And the management became so much about the profit. And what I feel happening behind the curtains right now, financial MMF system gets destroyed and replaced by technocrats, by digital who are planning. And even though people may start to wake up and find their way spiritual, but culturally, we may get a lot of empowering from our history, from heroes. People need heroes, the real ones, literature. This is where I think what the kids may benefit from learning and, sucking all this information, that they are unique, they have some power to stand against this. What would you say?
Well, I agree and I disagree, because on the one hand, I understand more than you imagine about the importance of the hero. For many, many long years, I have loved Lermontov above all other writers in the world. And of course, he only ever wrote one book, which was about the hero's journey, a hero in our times. And because I understand the importance of the hero. Having said that, the hero ultimately typifies the absence of the Christed light within the individual and the need to adulate and to praise and to solicit and to worship and to adore some externalized, extraneous icon or object. So I suggest that now is the time of all times where actually we must collectively withdraw from soliciting or seeking heroes outside of ourselves. And actually what we must do is each of us start to reclaim this Christed nature and engage the hero's journey within each of our lives, even the simplest life of all. If you have a very simple, meek life and you are not making too much noise or impact in this world, but if you engage the hero's journey truly, which is just about the alchemy of pure truth and right action and how we apply it in the living moment, and always in kindness and always in grace, but always with fire and never moving against our conscience. If we are able to alchemize our lives in that way, even if we are the most simple, humble person, we can affect and impact people around the world. We will never even know the degree to which we can impact people on the other side of the earth. This is how it works at that level. Every one of us is divinely appointed. I spoke recently about this example to put this in the minds of people. In the Second World War, when the Hiroshima had been bombed and they were sending the plane on to Kokura, that was where the next bomb was supposed to go, in a city called Kokura. And the plane was moving over, but there was bad cloud cover above Kokura, and one of the crewmen in that plane, in the bomber, looked out, and he decided not to press the button and to drop the bomb when they were over Kokura because of the cloud cover. He just decided not to do it. And they moved on, and the next city in their way was Nagasaki. He pressed the button and bombed Nagasaki. So I'm saying that there was a boy, 21-year-old kid in an airplane. For whatever reason, it was his executive choice. He could have pressed the button and 150,000 people would have died instantly in Kokura. Actually, it happened in Nagasaki. But the point is, the people in Kokura were blessed in that moment. The ones in Nagasaki were cursed in that moment. The fact of the matter is that every single individual can impact the lives of millions of people without even knowing how their own determinations can affect others. We are all very, very powerful fractals in a great holograph. And it is true. It sounds sanctimonious, but it is absolutely true that every single soul is of limitless value and importance to the whole. It is true.
It absolutely resonates with me. Everything what you said, this is what I try to translate in my video blog. I keep telling about the Trinity, that we have a body which we really need to take care of. That body is going to be helping our soul, and then the spirit, which we need to encourage. And it's time for the brave people, and the brave people who are going to make a big difference. Unfortunately, what I also experience when I work on the other side of the fence, where the left brain peoples are, who are master of these master toys, which are our digital, our virtual reality, our games, our infrastructure for our next, whatever the civilization gonna be. They don't have this part of their mental, cognitive developed. They really don't understand. And this is why I think I have a unique kind of breach, because I understand them. They really think that, well, it's innocent. Oh, well, we do the social rating system. We do the financial payment system. And it's a tools, but the hands which these tools belong to, this is something which we would like to address. And I believe that not everyone, not only ready, but they are playing on the wrong side without even being convinced that this is any science. This is why I'm still looking for some recipe for the people who are, let's say, material people, who still need institution of religion. It's type of, when you have a cave because your leg is broken and you couldn't really walk properly. This is what people are mostly searching for, and they need this time to move to the side of the spiritual, who see themselves as a divine. I absolutely agree. It's just a middle ground.
Yeah, well, again, we're moving into this natural, organic revelation, which is a bifurcation. In the alchemical sense, it is a bifurcation. And it is the dross matter is pulling away from the higher resonance values. So people who are anchored in truth and in integrity and are standing in their inner light are the ones who are going to be enjoying the process of unfoldment. The process of revelation becomes euphoric, becomes very joyful. And to those who are anchored still in this false light principles of control and supremacy, numbers and systems and registrations and tabulations and all of this kind of binary bullshit that makes fearful people feel as though there is order in the universe. That's why they like little books. They like to fill out forms. They are the petty tyrants, the perfect technocrats and bureaucrats. And that echelon of humanity, which makes up a considerable percentage, are anchored essentially in fear and fearfulness and control, the need to control. They like time and motion. They like money. They understand interest bearing. They believe that that is morally judicious to make a good, honest interest. You see, they don't understand that the root of all ill in the world is interest bearing, and that we should be all collectively imagining a world of limitless abundance, limitless prosperity, limitless creative expansion, and absolutely no need to profit off our brother or sister ever. That is what we ought to be placing our undiluted focus on. But you're not going to explain that to people who are addicted to time and motion and control. They have to bifurcate away from the collective meme. And that is what's going to be happening at an exponentially increasing pace in the days ahead. Certainly in the next generation of 7, 8, 9 years, you're going to see an eradication of that echelon amongst humanity. People who are anchored into fear and reflexivity and psycho-emotional addictions, they are the ones who are going to be literally poisoning themselves. They will not be able to sustain the new code or light coding that we're moving into. I swear this is astrophysics. This is pure science I'm talking about. I got astrochemistry, but this is the nature of light and the changes that are upon us. And anyone who is not receiving it by themselves, moving into alignment and attunement with that innate divine light that energizes every atom and every soul, then you're a dead fiction. You're choosing death over life. You're choosing to mask yourself, or even better, put on 2 masks because then I'm doubly protected. Why don't you just put on 55 masks and just lose oxygen and perish? Because that's what it's coming down to. These are the symbols we're seeing. People wanting to mask themselves against oxygen and against hiding in their home against daylight and wanting the government to get an injection in their arm as quickly as possible, they won't be with us in the next generation. Those people will all perish, all of them, every single one of them. If you are one of those people and you're listening to this broadcast right now, and you consciously want to wear a mask against oxygen, if you consciously want to stay inside your home out of sunshine, and if you consciously want your government to put an injection with an oxidative enzyme into your arm, you will not be here in a few years to witness where the revelation takes us. You've chosen death, you've chosen entropy, and you've chosen to negate your Christed nature. That is what's happening right now. It is powerful alchemy, and personally, I'm loving it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with every word what you said, and I believe that this is our freedom. It's our freedom to choose fear or to choose love, to choose to be open up with our inner feelings and be able to create our own future. But I see so many people who are good people, but they truly, honestly rely, they trust. And I see it's more and more manipulation coming. It's all social responsibility. This is why I feel that the social segregation, which people talking about BLM, Black Lives Matter, and the human rights, but reality now, smart, brave people who are not willing to have a vaccination, they now became under the social segregation. And all people who support the Black people for some reason, they somehow stop protecting or supporting the people who have a freedom to choose my body, my choice. I think this is where it's like common sense. People losing not only soul, they're losing the ability to take care of themselves, but the common sense when the segregation coming from the government could not be right for one group of citizenship and wrong for other ones.
Well, you know, in a way, we're still having a tea party in a prison cell by even having this conversation. I have no respect for government, full stop. All governments are satanic Luciferian constructs, and we must disengage them, disidentify from them, and bring them into full foreclosure and dissolution now. We need to do it in the next few short years. I don't believe any corporation government will exist in the next few years. I've been saying it for the last few years. I predicted in 2012 that within 8 years, we would see the end of the onset of the end of governments, and I believe that's happened. We know that the Vatican and the Crown of England are in foreclosure. We know that the US Treasury is trillions of dollars in debt. There is no possible way of redeeming itself. All of the central banks and banksters are in irredeemable debt. So this is unconscionable that we continue with the same model. All of this is connected to government. And I always remind people that the etymological root meaning of government is mind control. That's what the word means. Why are we not able to simply see that and recognize that I will not pay personal income tax into a satanic construct which penalizes me and tries to harm my babies? No, thank you. Not interested. No contract. Get lost. Get thee behind me, Satan. And when I say Satan, I'm talking about politicians. I'm talking about parliamentarians. I'm talking about congressmen and congresswomen. And dear God, if you cannot see how that's played out in the United States Congress in the last month, then you were blind or you were brain dead, because we all saw it in technicolor, how evil and how deceiving these treacherous serpents are in their nest. We cannot allow for these serpents to lay eggs any longer in our civilizational model. I determine the outcome. I am the Christed one in this generation. I am the one that carries the Godhead in my fire, in my blood, in my words, in my truth. I will define the outcome of this world in my life. That's it. Now, just enough human beings standing in that divine prerogative changes the entire hologram. Everything moves into obedience to the Christed nature, but we must awaken within that, each of us.
And I think this is a good vision for the next years. And people keep asking, what would be your advice? How to walk out from this satanic system?
Stop paying taxes. Stop paying personal income tax. Stop paying personal income tax. Stop being afraid of satanic constructs which are committing treason and trying to kill you and your babies. Stop buying poisons and putting them into your body. Stop rubbing poisonous lotions on your bodies. Stop washing your hair with synthetic molecules. Stop putting synthetic molecules into any part of your ecosystem. That's it. Stop paying for it. We are the ones who are choosing as consumers, completely lost in a synthetic dystopia. We are the ones who are choosing to poison ourselves, mind, body, and soul. Just stop it. That's
I see. It's a simple advice. And I think the government is helping us because so many small companies are running bankruptcy. 110,000 restaurants in United States and 10,000 restaurants only in Canada who have been running bankruptcy lately. So
Yeah.
I believe that this is something which is going to happen even if you don't want it, because the government is already taking care that all of us are going to be bankrupt soon,
which is
rather
why
than
stop paying personal income tax. Again, pay your merchant taxes, pay business tax, that's correct, but stop paying personal income tax. It's treason, it's fraud. That's all it is. I mean, I'm an expert in the subject. I lecture on the subject. I speak to world leaders on the subject. I've got the best lawyers in the world in UCC and in contract law and in constitutional law. Everything I say is 1000% law-based, rule of law. I don't care about statutory bullshit dreamt up by the corporation government or the European central banksters. I care about rule of law, universal commercial code. That's fine by me. I'll stick with the UCC, and under the rules of the UCC, I will beat any government to death with its own stick in a courtroom. They know that. They know how illicit they are. Any banker beyond a certain level understands absolutely they're involved in black magic. That's all. Spells and bonds. Spells and bonds. Dirty, dirty, dirty game.
And so about the government, you mentioned a couple of times as a Trump and the Putin as the leaders, which are helping some people to believe that this is going to be some other type of relationship, other type of institutions. But if we're going to walk out of the government per se, how are we going to see who are going to inspire people? Do you think all people would be just focusing on their inner feeling to be able to wake up?
Again, stupid people will be dead anyway in the next few years because they'll poison themselves and their families to death. I'm not concerned about them. I'm concerned about conscious, good humans, Adamites. And those ones are increasingly awakening at an exponential speed. They are awakening to the fiction of the birth certification, of the wedding certification and registration, of the death certification and registration, of registering your bicycle or your automobile or your farm or your office block or your home or your caravan. You should not register anything to the crown or the state. Nothing should be registered to it because that is simply giving it away. And the very last thing you should be doing if you're a Christian, a good Christian, or a good Muslim, or a good Buddhist, is you should never register your child to the state or the crown under any circumstances. That is the most evil satanic compact you've ever undertaken in your life, registering your child to the state or the crown because you were too unconscious, too ignorant to be aware of what you were doing, and because you never followed the dictates of your conscience. When your conscience went, there's something there, look at it. If your conscience does that, look at it and weigh it up and measure it. But we don't do that. We've been taught that we are ignoble creatures, that we are dirty, sullied creatures, that our opinions mean nothing, that we are only validated when the goddamn priest anoints us, or the banker approves our loan or our mortgage, or the teachers give us some goddamn fictitious piece of paper with a graduation number on it. So we are indentured into the spells and the bonds. And as you rightly said at the beginning of this interview, we have lost the essence, the quintessence, the guts, the balls, the fire, the blood. There's nothing there. Not until now, at any rate. Now that begins, that comes back.
Perfect, Sasha. I'm so happy that you are here to tell us all this. Do you have anyone in Russia who you connected to make sure that we are growing our set and net of the people who share the same vision? Do you?
No, but I do have a dear Russian friend who's beginning to convert, transcribe some of my videos into Russian. So I believe there's a Russian YouTube channel that is either up now or going to be up within the next couple of weeks. So I'm very, very happy and keen to speak more and more to Russian audience and to learn more from the Russian audience. I have a huge love and respect. I've been to Russia a number of times, and I understand the spirit of the place. I think if ever I was in this world before, I have no recollection, but if I was, I know I came from probably, somewhere in the Altai region. I was, probably near you, but, Baikal. I was like, a real warrior Siberian spirit. I love the Russian spirit very, very deeply. So
Thank you very much. I'm going to translate our interview in Russian and put up in my video blog. And if you don't mind, next time, maybe we can have an open conversation. And some people from Russia, and I have many Russian-speaking people who are living like me abroad. And they believe that we already on this cross-cultural, more ability to understand other culture, other languages, because it's crucial. When you're saying the govern come from mind control, in Russian, it's opposite. It's coming from something which is right for people, which is good for people. And I believe before Middle Age, in Slavic nations, the way how the nations have been run was very totally different than European. It's only when Christianity came, and this is why the Byzantium became, and even our alphabet get reduced. We used to have 49 symbols, and each symbol has an image like Chinese. And I believe this is where our imagination, our creativity, our subconscious works totally different if you feel that this is something which is waking up and lighting up. So my suggestion, it's funny, for the people to wake up, they sometimes need to go back to their roots, to their recollection of memory, to their genetic memory, because I think this is what happened to me when I came here so far from my family, from my roots, and everything was so foreign, so strange, so cold, so distant, so digitalized, so sterilized, that even smells. They don't have the same smells like in Altai. In Altai, everything is really, really having a smell. And I believe this is how my awakening happening. So I would be very happy if next time you would accept our invitation for the open conversation.
Yes, love that. Very happy. Please, let's book that. Like I said, for me, it's very important. I want to draw more attention. I want to learn more about the Russian orientation, and I want to speak more to the Russian people. So I would welcome that greatly. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. I have a great night, great evening. Happy to see you. All good.